Welcome, friends. Tonight's story will touch your heart. The restaurant was silent, except for the soft sound of rain tapping the windows. Everyone turned their heads when the door opened. But instead of the elegant businessman she expected, a man in a faded denim jacket stepped in. His hands were rough, his eyes tired but kind, and full of something she hadn't seen in years: hope. She sat there in her wheelchair, pretending not to care. Yet when he walked up and smiled nervously, her guarded heart trembled. "I'm sorry. I think I'm late. You must be Emma?" he said softly. She blinked, confused. No one had said her name with such warmth since the accident. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like the CEO in a wheelchair. She felt like a woman, seen, respected, alive. Minutes turned into hours. They laughed, shared stories, and when he said, "You know, I fix engines, but maybe tonight I found something worth fixing inside me," she smiled. Truly smiled. A smile she thought she had lost forever. Sometimes the person who walks in when you least expect is the one who helps you find yourself again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Kindness. The next evening, Emma found herself staring at her reflection in the mirror. For years, she had looked at the woman in the wheelchair and seen only what she had lost: power, beauty, movement, life. But now, there was something different in her eyes. Maybe it was the way he had looked at her. Not with pity, not with curiosity, but with quiet admiration, as if he saw her strength before her scars. She didn't know why she wanted to see him again. Maybe because, for the first time, she wanted to feel normal, to laugh without pretending. She took a deep breath and called him. When he arrived at her home workshop, his hands were covered in grease and his smile was shy. "You called, boss lady?" He teased gently, and she laughed, an honest, free laugh that startled even her. He noticed her wheelchair had a loose bolt. Without asking, he knelt down and began fixing it. She watched him silently, her heart twisting as memories flooded in. The accident, the hospital, the silence that followed. "You don't have to do that," she whispered. "I know," he said, tightening the last screw. "But sometimes we all need a little fixing, even if it's just a wheel." Tears welled up in her eyes. He looked up at her, his hands still on the wheel. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. You just forgot how to move forward." For the first time in years, she reached out, her trembling hand touching his. No one had done that since she lost her legs. The warmth of his touch melted something inside her frozen soul. And that night, under the soft light of her workshop, the mechanic who had nothing gave back everything she thought she'd lost. Courage, hope, and the will to smile again. The next morning, the sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of Emma's penthouse. For years, those windows had framed only her loneliness, success without joy, wealth without warmth. But today, as she looked down at the city, her heart felt lighter. She didn't understand it, but she knew something inside her had shifted. The mechanic, Daniel, had become a strange kind of peace in her chaos. She found herself waiting for his messages, listening to the echo of his laughter in her empty home. She hated admitting it, but he made her feel alive again. That afternoon, Daniel arrived at her office with a small box in his hands. His clothes were stained with oil, his smile still crooked and honest. "I brought something for you," he said. Inside the box was a tiny model of a car, handmade, carved from wood. But what caught her breath was the message written beneath it. "Even the broken ones can still move. They just need the right engine." She looked up, her eyes glistening. "You made this?" she whispered. He nodded. "Yeah, thought you'd understand." Emma couldn't hold it anymore. The weight of years pressed down. The accident, the pity, the loneliness, the cold stares from people who saw only her chair. Tears rolled down her cheeks silently. "You don't know what it's like to lose everything," she said, her voice trembling. Daniel stepped closer, his tone soft but firm. "You're wrong, Emma. I lost my wife 5 years ago. She was my whole world. After that, fixing cars was the only thing that made sense. Pain doesn't choose, it just finds us. But sometimes, if we're lucky, someone helps us remember how to live again." Her heart broke and healed in the same moment. She reached out and held his hand tightly. feeling every pulse, every warmth of his presence. In that fragile silence, something beautiful was born. Not pity, not romance yet, but understanding. Two broken souls finding pieces of themselves in each other. As Daniel left, Emma looked at the wooden car again and whispered to herself, "Maybe my engine's still working after all." A week later, Emma invited Daniel to a charity event her company was hosting. Her first public appearance in months. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and polished smiles, but behind her elegant facade, her heart pounded like it hadn't in years. As Daniel walked in, wearing a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit, the entire crowd turned. He looked out of place among the city's elite, a mechanic among CEOs, yet he carried himself with quiet dignity. When his eyes found hers across the room, she felt her breath catch. "Daniel," she greeted softly when he reached her. He smiled. "Didn't know you'd look this good in real life, and not just behind a CEO title." She laughed quietly, her cheeks warming. "And you clean up better than I expected." But before the moment could settle, she saw the judgment in other people's eyes, the whispers, the fake smiles. Some guests laughed softly, pointing at the man standing beside her. Her assistant leaned in and whispered, "Ma'am, maybe we should ask him to wait outside." Emma froze. Her old fear crept back, the fear of being different, the fear of being talked about. But then she looked at Daniel, his simple, kind face, the man who had seen her for who she was, not what she'd lost. She took a deep breath and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "This man isn't just a guest. He's the reason I'm standing here with a smile tonight." The room fell silent. Daniel's eyes widened, his hands trembling slightly. Emma turned toward the crowd. "You all know me as a CEO, but very few of you know the woman behind the title. For years I forgot what it meant to be human, to feel, to hope, to laugh." He reminded me. Her voice broke. "He fixed what no doctor, no money, no therapy ever could. My heart." A tear slid down her cheek. Daniel instinctively reached for her hand. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. Cameras flashed. But she didn't care. The crowd, once silent, began to clap, slowly at first, then louder, until the entire room echoed with applause. Daniel leaned close and whispered, "Guess you just made it official." She smiled through tears. "No, Daniel, we just made it real." As they stood together under the golden lights, she finally realized healing doesn't always come from doctors or miracles. Sometimes it comes from the hands of someone who knows how to fix broken things and broken hearts. Months passed and the seasons changed. The city that once felt cold and distant now looked alive through Emma's eyes. Every morning, sunlight spilled through her window, the same window that used to frame her loneliness. But now it brought warmth, laughter, and sometimes the smell of oil and coffee, because Daniel was there. He had built a small workshop in her backyard, not for cars, but for dreams. There, he fixed old wheelchairs for children who couldn't afford new ones. And every evening Emma joined him, helping design better, lighter models. They called it Wheels of Hope. One evening, as golden light faded into twilight, Daniel found Emma sitting quietly on the porch. Her hair fluttered in the wind, her hands resting on her lap. He walked over, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You know," he said softly, sitting beside her, "the first time I met you, I thought you'd never smile again." Emma smiled gently. "And now?" He looked at her, his voice trembling. "Now I can't imagine a world without your smile." Tears welled up in her eyes. For years, she had hidden her scars, her pain, her fear of never being enough. But this man, this simple, kind mechanic, had taught her that broken didn't mean useless. Broken meant real. It meant human. She whispered, "You didn't just fix my heart, Daniel. You helped me believe that I still deserve love." He reached out, brushing away her tears. "And you helped me remember what love even feels like." They sat in silence as the sky turned orange and pink, the world around them quiet but full of life. Then Daniel stood up and handed her a small velvet box. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a tiny gear. "It's from my first engine," he said softly. "I wanted you to have it, because you're the one who keeps me running." Emma couldn't hold back her tears anymore. She reached for his hand, pulling him close. You walked into my life when I'd given up on living. You made me laugh again, dream again, love again. You didn't see a wheelchair. You saw me. Daniel smiled through misty eyes. And I'll keep seeing you every day for the rest of my life. As the night settled in, the stars above glowed brighter, as if the universe itself was smiling down at them. The once paralyzed CEO, who thought her life was over, now laughed freely in the arms of the man who fixed more than machines. He fixed her spirit. Sometimes love doesn't arrive in luxury cars or boardrooms. Sometimes it walks in wearing oil-stained boots and gives you back the courage to live again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Soul of Kindness.